Okay, welcome back to Minority Report from 2002. We just see a horrifying crime happen, which I'll skip. And I put the record of that very couple from the Crime Watch, since we are in the Department of Pre-Crime in Washington, D.C. In the year 2054, as we see John Anderton waddling in, played by Tom Cruise. And Jad here gives him the advanced info on the next crime that's about to be committed, since these pre-crime agents get to see all of that beforehand, and seeks permission first from these guys and is granted. And watches the crime happen and looks for that guy who will commit it, Howard Marks, and we see him here picking up his newspaper and goes back in to tell his wife that the guy standing outside his house looks very familiar. And Jad tells John here that he's not the only Howard Marks, since there are 6 more guys in the area with the same name. And so far, the one we just saw is that very guy John needs. And John is ready to go and brings in Fletcher here, played by Neil McDonough, including Danny Whitworth, played by Colin Farrell. And Fletcher shows Danny what they do to the criminals. And John, doing some specific and lip reads the killer's location and reads merry-go-round from lips. And Howard Marks goes to work, but instead he hides behind the tree and sees the killer go inside his house. And John Anderton and the rest are ready to go.
The bed is soft. I'm soft.
And Howard is sad, and the pre-crime watch guys have made it to his house. And John forgets the address and calls back Jad to see if Howard closed the door. And yeah, she is cheating with the same dude who Howard saw outside, like I said, and all 3 of them are under arrest and have identified Howard Marks. And back to the news about kills and homicide rates in the United States, and the pre-crime program has worked wonders. I even see the director there. And see John jogging at night and sees this guy and buys something off of Lycon here.
The one-eyed man escaped.
And he's back at home with the voice automated house and sees his son Sean in his live record showcase here and ingests the neuron, which is like a drug, sort of like heroin, he got from Lycon, and watches his wife's hologram. And the next morning everyone is going to work and sees John headed there and walks to meet with the pre-crime director, Lamar Burgess, played by Max von Sydow. And Lamar tells him to keep an eye on Danny Whitworth since he's freaking out right now. You'll see why later on. So next scene we do see Danny and the others watching Fletcher, showing this ball talks about crime stopping and walks in John. And John is already suspicious of Danny and speaking about precogs and someone named Lois Heineman. And Danny wants to go in to check on the 3 precogs inside the facility and shows him a warrant and tells John he's under his supervision right now. And John is confused with what Danny is saying. And these guys seem to understand it, but he tells them to get back to work and pisses off John a little bit and is left alone.
Whoa.
And tries to waken Agatha up here. And she looks up what made her come here, and John also looks up too. And comes rushing in Wally to see she's out of position. She's pre-crime predictor. She's a precog, okay, like I said. And John heads to the record room and sees Gideon the Sentry, played by Tim Blake Nelson, who will show him the precogs crime predictions. But he really wants to see Agatha's data stream first, but he says they're going for a ride for that. And surround themselves with all these pre-crime convicts and see this John Doe crime recording, and now redirects to Agatha's data stream, and Gideon can't find it. That pre-crime John Doe recording will come in handy. And John wants to know about Anne Lively, and she's a neuron addict, just like John. And John takes her data.
It's against the rules. Anything else going on in here that's against the rules?
And is now back with Lamar Burgess speaking about the Anne Lively data. And Whitworth wants another tour, and Laura has called Lamar and is worried about John here, and his pain is hurting both of them. So the next scene we see Danny Whitworth again has broken into John Anderton's house and opens his son's recorded hologram. And back at pre-crime department with John now on the arrest for Leo Crow, and once again permission seeking, and back to concert pianist theme playing as he swivels at the footage. And Agatha and the other 2 precogs predict that it's John Anderton who's going to kill Leo Crow. Now for the next ball rolling, as Jad was about to grab it, but John tells him to go get him some cake. He puts in the ball again, and Wally notices his crime And Wally sees the crime footage and is too much movement and will give him 2 minutes before turning on the alarm. And so he escapes and sees Danny again walking into an elevator with him, shows him his drugs he bought from Lycon. And so he escapes and Danny again walks into the elevator, shows up, and shows him the drugs he bought from Lycon, which is a neuron. And he drives as fast as he can and shouts for Lamar. And tells him he has no idea who Leo Crow is since he's going to kill him in 36 hours, and Whitwer probably set him up. And escapes from his car since the pre-crime guys have found him, and jumps from car to car and ends up here.
It's Whitwer! He set me up! He set me up! Just wait, he set me up. Whitwer! It's Whitwer! He's here. Who's the victim?
Looks like a Pilates studio. And back at Lamar's office, Fletcher has asked this guy to find John and walks in Danny Whitwer, who wants John Anderton arrested for dope possession or neuron possession, and he's a suspect from a future crime that's about to happen. And John has made it to the mall with the Lexus ad and all these cameras making known of his presence here. And Jad has located John Anderton at the train station. And John's staring here and has made it to his stop, and Fletcher would back up, has found him and runs away. The pre-crime guys have cornered John and are about to use their throwing up batons on him. And now he's hanging off the bar and holds on to Fletcher and is just pushing away, trying to escape, and flies into these apartments. And Danny has located him along with the other pre-crime guys. And I've made it here inside this factory and to do some hand-to-hand combat. And it's a car manufacturing company, and John has been constructed into that very car being shipped out. So lucky him, he escapes. And he speeds away and has made it to Heineman's place and goes inside this plant house. And he meets with Dr. Iris Heineman, played by Lois Smith, and sees he's been poisoned and she speaks way too fast. I guess you can call her the Oracle, like from the Matrix movie. And talked about studying neuron, and neuron, and tells her he hasn't seen the guy he's supposed to kill, and he still thinks it's made up. And she tells him the precogs are never wrong, which are Agatha and her two accomplices, and tells him the precogs will have their disagreements about the same pre-crime prediction, and one of them will look at it differently. And that's news to John Anderton.
Why didn't I know about this?
Because these minority reports are destroyed the instant they occur.
And he knows all those pre-crime people he's arrested had alternate futures, such as the crime was just a thought and not an act, and Lamar Burgess knew about this minority report the whole time, and wants to know where that minority report to stop his pre-crime system is. Prediction. And he can't go back to the pre-crime department since he's now wanted for his futuristic crime. And back here further analyzing John's pre-crime footage, and the secretary comes to tell Danny to get off John's desk, and he sees a piece of glass from the record room John had and wants to know where his wife is, or ex-wife. Next scene, John is at a clinic for some treatment by Dr. Solomon Eddy, played by Peter Stormare.
Will appear. What was that?
And he will disguise John Anderton's eyes using medicine and minor surgery, again, on his eyes, and his assistant, Miss Van Eyck, will help him. And they start speaking Swedish, and Miss Van Eyck starts to replace John Anderton's eyes. And Danny Whitwer has made it to John's former wife's house, Laura, since he's looking for him. And she responds that he's not here.
It's right after we lost our son.
You mean after he lost your son?
It was nobody's fault.
And Danny Whitwer continues with the past report of what really happened, and she broke up with John Anderton because she reminded him of her son. And John's eye replacement surgery is done and has all the necessities attached to him, like eating and going to the bathroom, since he has to leave the bandages on for 12 hours and to not scratch his eyes or else he'll go blind. So he sets a timer for those 12 hours and has the memory flashback of his son Sean at the swimming pool. And so he goes into the pool and sees Sean, and he drops his timer watch, and John Anderton is head shaking everywhere and wakes up from this flashback or dream, and is now hungry, and scene is pretty laughable, going for the moldy sandwich and milk, maybe a gag pulled by Solomon. And drinks motor oil. Now a parody of Bad Boys is now playing, which is called Cops. Surprisingly, Peter Stormare was in one of those movies. Haha. And the pre-crime guys are back on the job and have located John Anderton as Fletcher has dropped some spiders to scan John's eyes to find out where he is. And John has made his way to the bathroom and dives into this icy cold bathtub to avoid the spiders, and the pre-crime guys have lost their radar on John Anderton. And not played by Patrick Kilpatrick, we'll go check it out. And the spiders are electrocuting him, and it looks like the 12 hours are up, and they scan John's new eye.
We got an ID. It's not him.
Standing down. Let's see.
And back at pre-crime is Danny doing some more observations who was with John earlier, somewhere I forget. We see a school-like tour here, how the pre-crime department has killed regular detectives, career-wise, and John undercover and uglifies himself. Here to go inside the pre-crime underground department, it takes out his normal eyes to get in, and drops his eyes and rolls down one of them and falls into the sewer. So he scans one eye and enters the precog department, and Wally notices John walking in undercover since he recognizes his voice. And Danny Whitworth knows John Anderton is back, and he wants Wally to take him to the Leo Crow killing he's supposed to kill in the footage. And he's here to escape with Agatha, the precog that's separate from the other two, according to Heinemann. And Danny sees John is back and smashes a glass to get in and drowns down with Agatha.
You telling me they can't see murders
Maybe
anymore?
if you'd taken one of the males, but Agatha, she's the key. She's the one we listen to, the one with the most talent.
Yeah, makes sense. And John is in the car with her and is desperate to know where Leo Crow is, or who Leo Crow is. But first he has to buy some clothes for Agatha since, she is a woman. She's not exactly a robot, so not exactly a precog, so he stops at the Gap.
Welcome back to the Gap. How those assorted tank tops work out for you?
Mr. Yakamoto.
And grabs some clothes, and back at pre-crime, Danny mentions that this has nothing to do with ransom since he kidnapped Agatha to prove his pre-crime footage is all fabricated. And has some video game-like consoles here, and has his Dreamweaver disc with the name Rufus T. Wiley. And we do see him, and he's a sex robot porn salesman, as this customer over here is planning his own pre-crime already. And here comes John with Agatha, and he needs his help.
Jesus Christ. Are you reading my mind right now? Get up.
And he's scared now, and John is desperate for this info to be out of her, and he doesn't want to help, but John pushes him and he'll help him. And her head is wired to John's crime, and Rufus has to record this, and it cuts off the moment John shoots at Leo Crow. And John just wants that minority report, and she says there's none for him, and she starts moaning loudly, and now the footage is continued and sees someone named Ann Lively, the same woman mentioned earlier. And just before the mask of the killer is taken off, the pre-crime guys have located John Anderton. And Agatha directs him to what's really going to happen next and wait for someone in a blue suit, sort of like Time Cop here.
He knows. Don't go home.
The cops tripping over the homeless guy after John donates some money, and here comes the billboard with the pre-crime footage. And so he does make it to a hotel, and he wants to see the registry, and he sees Leo Crow has already checked in. And Leo Crow is in room 1006, and this old lady just laughing. And goes back to the very room where pre-crime recording was shown of him, but it's the wrong room and turns a 6 right back up to 9. And breaks into the real room 1006, and looks everywhere and sees all these pictures of kids on his bed, and sees Sean's picture, and the crime does make sense. And the pre-crime does make sense of him. And now sees a picture of Leo Crow with Sean, and that's very questioning, and Agatha needs to get back to the pre-crime department. And here comes Leo Crow, played by Mike Binder. And yes, Leo Crow, and yes, Sean was alive, but Leo Crow still killed him. And there's that same billboard that was shown in the pre-crime recording, even in the scene previously. And Agatha tells John he's got a choice to not kill Leo Crow. And he doesn't kill Leo Crow and gives him his Miranda rights.
If you did what? If I acted like I killed your kid. Okay?
So it was all pre-planned as a pre-crime. And Leo Crow just wants to be killed. And all those kids' pictures not even his. Just given by someone from the pre-crime department to make it look like he's done some things to those kids. They're all fake, except Sean. And he wants to die, so he just makes John Anderton kill him by grabbing his gun from his hand. And Danny with the pre-crime is back to see all this. Meanwhile, Lamar still has a headache watching the news. And Danny is calling in to meet up at Anderton's, at John Anderton's house, and he's there and shows him the gun he gave that Lamar Burgess gave John back in Baltimore, and sits down to show him that Ann Lively's murder, and shows the very murder, gives him full analysis. And John Anderton was watching this while about to kill Leo Crow, and that murder of Ann Lively was erased from Agatha's system. It mentions a bunch of info that you can watch on your own, the actual movie, and someone higher up in pre-crime is definitely responsible for all this.
The precogs can't see a thing.
And so the responsible higher up is none other than director Lamar Burgess of the pre-crime department. And what's even worse is Laura is part of this. Sees John stopping right outside with Agatha. And Agatha inside sensing something and back outside talking to Laura. And remembers Ann Lively and runs back inside to see Agatha has already imagined Sean's disappearance and has his entire future life all ready to blurt out to John and Laura. And too much to say, but I'll end it here. And the pre-crime guys have surrounded him, and he's been arrested for supposedly killing Leo Crow and somehow Danny Whitwer, as that awakens his eyes. And while he's happy that Agatha is back and getting happy to put away John Anderton, and Laura is with Lamar getting ready for a press conference, and Laura asking who Ann Lively is. And she tells him that John joined the pre-crime department so that no one else's child will end up like Sean. And he would like to get his bow tie adjusted by Laura, and he slips up.
But I never said she drowned.
He just stands up, and we'll talk about it at the cottage tomorrow. And Laura spots a very familiar gun in that box. And Lamar is at the conference receiving a special revolver, and his secretary picks up his ringing earpiece and hands it to Lamar. And it's John telling he killed Agatha's mother, Ann Lively. And killed her because Agatha was already precog for pre-crime, didn't want to give that up, and she could also be up there. Signing autographs for her pre-crime predictions. And Jad getting a call from Laura to put the very pre-crime footage of Lamar Burgess drowning Ann Lively, and is now playing at the press conference in front of everyone. And Lamar rushes to the kitchen and takes out his fancy revolver.
Girl could have said Sean.
The pre-crime of both John and Lamar have been launched as Fletcher turns around here. And just some slow walking between the two. Here comes the pre-crime guys as Lamar shoots himself with his fancy revolver. And time goes by as John Anderton narrates that the pre-crime program has been eradicated for good, since we are still in the year 2054, and that prisoners are released that were arrested under pre-crime, but they're still being watched, right? They're like on parole. And Laura is pregnant with the new child, and Agatha and her two precog associates have moved to the countryside. And directed by Steven Spielberg, and that is Minority Report from 2002. It's a great movie. It's fantastic. I liked it a lot. You can't beat the 2000s. I've said that a million times. It's based off a short story by Philip K. Dick. I think I read it in high school. But thanks a lot for watching once again, and I'll see you in the next episode. Like, comment, and subscribe. Share the video, and I'll speak to you in the next episode. See you next time.